everybody, this is the Vikström and today we're going to talk about Martin Scorsese. Now, when it was announced that Scorsese was going to do another movie, he was going to do a movie starring Joe Pesci, Al Pacino and Robert De Niro, based on the novel I Hear You Paint Houses, which the movie originally was going to be called. However, they chose the title The Irishman instead. I was psyched for it. I really was. But then it arrived on Netflix. I saw it, and what I thought was going to be movie of the year for sure ended up being just a really good movie of 2019. Why that is, you ask? Let's find out, shall we? Because this is Martin Scorsese's 26th full-length feature film, and it is called The Irishman. Frank, who delivers meat and is a truck driver, gets enrolled as a hitman into the organized crime just by one of these strange chances in life, and will follow him through several decades. He's also a close friend to super famous union leader Jimmy Hoffa, played by Al Pacino, and he forms a very close relationship with his boss, played by Joe Pesci, and we will basically see what happens to him throughout his career as a mob hitman, and how this affects him and how this affects Jimmy Hoffa and the family around him and all that good stuff. So this is a classical Martin Scorsese epic. Not only is this the longest movie Scorsese has ever done, clocking in at 209 minutes, it is also the most expensive movie he has ever done. It was all set up to become one of the most glorious movies of all time. It was all set up to be, well, an absolute mega epic. The best movie of 2019, I thought. We ended up getting a movie which I thought, when I turned it off, that was a movie, I'm glad I saw it. But I didn't feel like, man, I can't believe a movie's over, I want to watch it again. I get that when I see movies like The Wolf of Wall Street. I get that when I see movies like Gangs of New York. I get that when I watch movies like Casino, or Goodfellas, or Cape Fear, but not this one. I have been trying to figure out why, and I'm almost a little angry with myself because I cannot quite put the finger on exactly where the movie doesn't fully work. Now, I may sound like a negative Nancy, but I'm not a negative Nancy, I am positive Nancy. Is that a word, by the way? Anyway, maybe it's because it hasn't the grand spectacle of Casino. It doesn't have the debauchery and the humor that was the key elements of the success of The Wolf of Wall Street. Maybe it doesn't have the amazing camera work and the character and the frenetic pace of Goodfellas. Maybe there's a combination of the three. But I do know one thing. The tone of this movie is completely different from other Scorsese movies. The characters, doesn't have the same panache, it doesn't have the same, feeling that the characters in previous crime epics from Scorsese has. And, Robert De Niro is his, normal, downplayed, mellow himself, but Joe Pesci has probably made the biggest transition from being the unhinged, complete lunatic that scares everybody and beats the shit out of everybody despite not being taller than a golf club. In this, he has, almost a regal presence to him. He's almost like royalty, and he carries himself with such panache, and he, has this aura about him that is completely amazing. Al Pacino is really good as Jimmy Hoffa, and he lands on the right side of overplaying in this one. This is not Heat or The Devil's Advocate. We're coming out! Guns blazing! Even though I think that movie is fucking hilarious and he is fucking amazing in that one, it is fun to see him pull out the hoo-ha. here and there, and being the Al Pacino we all know and love, and things overact a little bit sometimes. The story doesn't have as much meat on its bone as previous epics he has done, and he compensates this by being one of the greatest craftsmen in movie history. The camera work is amazing. The slow motion sections, the panning shots, some of the great stuff he has done is done here too, and it compensates for the whole thing, because I feel like this movie could have been easily chopped down to maybe 2:45 or something like that. There are stuff here that I didn't quite think that we needed. I mean, they were told well, they were acted well, they were performed well, they were presented well, and they were shot well and directed well and everything. But I just felt that I could have skipped this sequence and the movie wouldn't have suffered for it. And people like Tarantino and, Scorsese himself have shown that you can have sequences that is practically meaningless and they still are good. But why it doesn't work in this movie as compared to a movie like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood or The Hateful Eight, or even movies like Casino, or Silence, another great underrated movie by the way by Scorsese. Why they work in those films but not in this, I really can't say. If you like Scorsese's movies, it is no reason not to see this movie. It is great. He has done movies that are better than this one. He has done movies that are not as good as this one. And if you like his crime epic stuff, you'll find lots of stuff that you love in this one. There's a great plethora of great characters apart from our three main characters, and there is a lot of feeling for the time, and Scorsese is the type of character who for some reason can make a movie float around for a couple of decades and you don't feel it. Oh, there is one thing we need to talk about, and that is the de-aging process. Because Al Pacino, Robert De Niro and Joe Pesci are old men today, and while they needed to look a lot younger in certain sequences for the most of the movie actually, they couldn't use makeup for this one. Makeup can do a lot, but not everything. So they did instead this de-aging digital process where they, make them look younger. This made, for some reason, Al Pacino look very much like Christopher Walken. And while the technique is really good, and I didn't have a problem with it per se, it did affect me a little bit, because Robert De Niro still has an old man's voice, and we're talking 30 years younger De Niro having old man De Niro's voice. It kind of takes you out of it a little bit, and also he cannot move as he would have done 30-40 years ago because he's an older man, and that kind of sometimes got me a little bit, that looked kind of not that good. And there is no way around it, it had to be done. It was something that bothered me a little bit from time to time, but not too much. But I would say in a closing statement that The Irishman is an extremely well-made movie. It has fantastic performances. It is a little bit too long and can sometimes be a little unfocused. But in total, I would say that it is a movie well worth seeing. Is it worth a subscription to Netflix alone? No, it isn't, but they have other stuff there as well. The Irishman is a classical big epic. It's filled with lots of great characters, lots of great actors. It has a big story to tell, but it tells it maybe a little too big for its own. I will give this movie 83 points. Even though it is a little self-obsessed at times, I still think that this is a great movie. Even if this movie overcooks it a little bit, it is still a great movie to see, but it doesn't have the replay value as previous Scorsese movie has. Don't worry, I'm not gonna jump down from here in my closing statement. I'm just gonna say to you that I was thinking a little bit about Martin Scorsese's comments about the Marvel Cinematic Universe a few months ago. Where do I stand in that debate? I think that Martin Scorsese cares a lot about the movie industry, and he fears that the time for him might be, over. It was very difficult to get this movie on the road. It was very difficult for him to get this movie financed and, no movie studios wanted to pick it up. He was kind of lucky that Netflix wanted to pick it up. And I think that in the same way as Jim Cornette is complaining about modern wrestling, Marty doesn't do it because he hates modern movies. I think it is more that he's afraid that there will be, just superhero movies that is going to be shown, and the odd comedy here and there, because originality in Hollywood has been pulled under and thrown under the bus in recent years, and it was difficult for him to get projects financed. Even if he had big stars like Leonardo DiCaprio in Shutter Island and The Wolf of Wall Street, it was still difficult for him to get those projects on the road, because even if they pull in money, because making movies can be so expensive, and movie studios don't want to take risks anymore with projects that are considered risky. That was not the case for him in the 90s or the 80s. He just did these great movies, and now it has become increasingly difficult for him to find platforms to present his visions. So I think that he doesn't generally hate these type of movies, but I think that he hates what they in the end can cause the film industry. In 10-15 years we might not have a Scorsese. In 10 to 15 years we might not have any originality left in Hollywood at all. Maybe we're just gonna have some corporate, slick, well produced but soulless product that people will watch just because of brand recognition, and they will have done a second batch of remakes of the soulless, horrible Disney remakes. I don't know, but I think that for me, I love the Marvel Cinematic Universes. I love them, but they have become so successful that they might actually affect other, people's ability to make movies and to sell them. I'm probably wrong about this one, but that's just my 2 cents in the whole thing. Well, that's it. I'll see you next time from, well, so-and-so reviewing, well, such and such. Thank you for watching. Thank you very much.